How to create a flip pattern in Photoshop, one that's flipped over. Got a document 200 by 200, the image size 200 by 200. You could use 300 by 300, up to you. And key panel here is window and layers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a design. This is going to be that's going to be the end result document. That's going to be the pattern document, the 200 by 200. And I'm going to use various things. I could use lines, I could use custom shapes, but it's all going to be in one half of that document. Just a very small design. And I'm going to select it. I'm going to select that half. The background of the other half will be a transparency. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip the design into the other half. So create a selection, select all, and then select and transform. Go to the width there at the top and set it to 50%. Now just drag that across because I want it on the left side or on the right side, doesn't matter, either side. And I'm going to create my design in that selection. The other side I'm going to remove, I'm going to delete it. To make that easier, I'm just going to create a layer. So just go to layer and new layer. So design is going to be created on that layer. And it can be anything. It can be anything. So it's going to be mirrored in the other half. But I'm going to go with some lines. But before that, I want to fill it. So I'm going to fill it with a grey. So edit and fill. You don't have to do that. You could have a transparent background as well for there as well. So 50% grey, click OK. Or we could fill it with black or white, up to you. So that's going to be where the pattern is. And you could use custom shapes, circles, dots, stars, whatever, brush strokes. And I'm going to just add a few lines. So I'm using line tool, I'm using it in pixel mode. And you can change the weight, so you can make it 20, 30, 40, make a variety of different lines, change the colour, different greys. And it doesn't have to be grey, it could be black, it could be red, green, blue. But I'm just going to go with greys. And just have it dragged across there. Now, when you come to do the flip of the design, a transform flip, then obviously that's going to be mirrored in the other half. Click OK. Now, you could actually do it there and then. You could duplicate that layer and then flip it and add it to the other side. It's up to you, of course, if you wish to do that. But I'm going to use a slightly different technique for that. And again, you could add ellipses or stars into that design. And of course, it's a very small document. I've gone for 200 by 200. I want to keep it on the screen. I want to make it fairly small. And you could, of course, go for 1,000 by 1,000 as the document size. It doesn't have to be that tiny. And you could work with like 10,000 by 10,000 documents with pattern. Now I want to remove the background. I could, of course, copy and then paste the design and flip transform in the document itself. For flexibility, I don't want to do that. I want to have them as two layers. Select menu and deselect. So it's now deselected. You've got that one side with a background and you've got transparency on the other side. So edit and define pattern. And that will define the pattern with that transparency on the other side and with that pattern. So you've got your pattern. Transform it, flip transform via the edit menu and transform and go to the bottom and flip horizontally. And then just drag it over. Now it's mirrored. Now, of course, what you could do, you don't have to keep it like that. You could add some additional designs to it. You don't have to keep it exactly the same as the other one. Up to you. Now what you can do, you can go to edit and edit menu and define pattern. Make certain it's available. Sometimes it isn't, so you just best to get that. Click OK. And now you've got the two patterns, you've got the two halves. Go back to the completely fresh document. This could be 3000 by 3000, 10,000 by 10,000. And I'm going to create it on layer. It makes it more flexible. So layer menu and new layer. And then edit and fill. Instead of 50% grey, go for pattern. And go and select the pattern you've created. And so the two halves don't have to be the same. That's the reason why I keep them separate. Make certain the script is brick fill. Deselect, select it again, because Photoshop sometimes decides not to run the brick fill. Set the values pattern scale to 1 and then 0, 0, 1, 1, and then down the bottom set that to 0. At the moment it's 90, so I'm going to set it to 0. That's the spacing offset. The colours are randomised. Set the angle option to 0. The colour randomisation is not great in this script. When you run it again, you'll notice the colours are much the same, but it does randomise each of the cells. But you can always tweak it later using adjustments. Click OK. Pattern preview does not match the end result in some cases. So you've got your design there. Now what you can do, you can run, and it's on a layer, so you can go to and create another layer. Of course, if you run it again with the same layer, it'll just be added to that layer. Now you've got two layers. What I'm going to do is edit and fill. Select brick fill as before. And just select the other pattern, the one that's the other half. Set the script, make sure that's on. Like I say, I always like to deselect it and select it, put it brick fill, because Photoshop sometimes ignores it. So, and you'll notice the colour scheme ends up really the same, much the same. In fact, virtually identical. Is identical. But you've got it, the design has been flipped, so you can see it go up, down, all the way along. What you can do, of course, because it's on a layer, you can go to image menu and you can do invert. You could do hue and saturation. You go to hue and you can just move that along. Just change. So you can see you've got the same design, the underlying design. The colour obviously has changed. Or maybe go for grayscale, saturation down to 0. You now have two layers. You can modify the colours. You can also apply effects to them. And much, much more. You can select both of those layers. You can go to the layer menu and flatten the image. You can also convert it into a single layer. You can also convert it into a smart object via layer menu and smart objects and convert. Now it's a smart object. What you can do, you can go quite easily go to, and the underline is not touched, so you can now go say like distort. So you can distort it, modify the maybe perspective, warp, all via the edit menu and transform and distort or perspective. Apply effects to it. Go to the filter menu. You can also go to like 3D menu and new mesh from layer and depth map. Let's go to one of those. Select one of the depth map. I always go for the single normally, but there's other options available. Once in 3D, you can scale it, rotate it, and much, much more. You can also change the lighting. For some reason, the lighting is always by default very dark, but you can add additional lighting to modify the scene. You can find many tutorials on the web, as well as on the Graphicxtras channel about the 3D features of Photoshop. But you can go back and you can then do adjustments again. You can modify hue saturation for the whole thing, for the smart. And these smart objects, the adjustments can be modified. So you can change all the colours, but you can always delete the changes, the adjustments. You can also edit them at any point. Put saturation down to -100 and make it grayscale. Use auto tone, invert, HDR toning, and so on and so on. Or maybe apply effects. Filter menu, and then apply blurs, liquify, oil paint, and many, many others. You could also use custom shapes and many other designs as well with this flip technique. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to the Graphic Extras channel, always adding new tutorials about Photoshop, Illustrator, and many, many others. Please add some comments, always appreciated. A dislike or like. Thank you much.